Welcome to week 2 of your senior project report. To get started on this week, I'm going to click this week 2 overview page. This week, we're going to be talking about how to critique research articles, and we're also going to talk about organizing an abstraction table, which is something that you will need to do and turn in next week. So for this week, there is a page with a reading and information. Please complete all of the material on that page. The second thing that I want you to do is read about article abstraction tables. We'll go over that in just a moment. And then you do have a discussion post to complete. I just want you to share your finalized research question that you're going to use for your literature review assignment. We'll go over that in just a minute as well. So let's talk about your article abstraction tables. If you click this link here, it will take you to a page with more information on the article abstraction tables. So for your literature review paper, you do need to review at least 10 articles. So for your Health 402 literature review paper, if you think back and remember, you had to identify 5 articles that you reviewed. For this assignment, you have to identify 10. Now, once you identify those articles, it can be challenging to organize and pull out all of the relevant information when you have so many articles. So we use abstraction tables to help us kind of pull out the relevant information you need from each paper and organize it in a way that is easy to look at and it's easy to follow while you're writing that literature review. Now, creating an abstraction table might feel tedious right now, but I will tell you down the road when you actually go to start writing your outline in your paper, you're going to be very grateful that you put in the effort now. This will save you a lot of time. So an article abstraction table is basically set up usually in an Excel document, and you have columns that have important pieces of each article that you've selected. So the columns that you are required to have in your Excel document for your abstraction table includes the reference, so at least the author and the year, but you should put the full reference in the first column. The second column is going to briefly state the purpose of the study. The third column will be the study design, so whether it's a cross-sectional, longitudinal study, whatever that is, you'll indicate the study design. The sampling technique used, including the target population and sample population, so think about whether it was a probability or non-probability sampling technique, and think about which one it specifically was. So maybe it was a non-probability sampling technique and it used a convenience sample, for example. You also want to include the sample size. I want you to include the measures for the independent and dependent variables and how those were actually measured in the study. So for example, maybe sleep is maybe my independent variable. Then I would say the measure that was used was the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. That's how they actually measured sleep quality. The next column should be the key findings of the study. So at a high level, what were the big key findings from that study? And then strengths and limitations. I would encourage you to think beyond the strengths and limitations stated in the paper and actually think about what those strengths and limitations are given the information from the research article. You might find that you want to include additional columns depending on your research question. You don't have to, but you are welcome to if you find that helpful. I have some examples of abstraction tables from previous studies here. These don't necessarily contain all of these columns, but I wanted to provide some examples from other studies that will be helpful in just kind of understanding overall what it is you're going to be doing. So let's click on one and I will open that up and we'll go over it. So here's one example of a abstraction table. You'll see in this column they have the reference here, so it's the author and the year. They also state a brief purpose of the study. They also have a column on the sample size and characteristics and the measures. Please follow the format that you've been provided in the instructions. I think it's really helpful to separate these things out into separate columns. the duration of the study, their overall findings, and then strengths and limitations. But you can see how helpful this is when you have like 10 articles that you're including in a literature review, to have all of this information that is noted in those bullet points above, to have all of that in like one place in table format. This makes it really easy as you're going through your different articles to have kind of the really important points, the key takeaways, the key information from those articles. It's all summarized in table format. This makes it much easier when you go to write your outline and you're trying to figure out how to organize your papers, and also when you're going to write your actual literature review, to have all this information in table format. So this is essentially what your abstraction table should look like. It should have those key points noted above in those bullet points for the 10 articles that you find for your literature review assignments. Remember, those articles you find need to align with your research question. So if, for example, you're looking at what health beliefs are associated with HPV vaccine uptake, then you would want to have articles that look at health beliefs and also at the actual uptake of HPV vaccines, and then it should also be in whatever population that you've decided you're going to focus on. The last thing I want you to do is complete this discussion post. So if I click here, this will take us to the discussion post. At this point, hopefully you've finalized your research question. If you have not, please come meet with me as soon as possible. I want you to be able to get started and start looking for papers, because your abstraction table is due next week. So the sooner you finalize that research question, the sooner you can get started on that assignment that's due next week. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to share your research question with the class so everyone can see what each other is working on. So for your initial post, I just want you to share your finalized research question that you're going to use for the literature review. And then for your reply post, I just want you to reply to your classmates' post and maybe provide a comment or constructive piece of feedback on their research question. And please make that reply by Sunday. So that's the plan for this week. Please work on identifying your papers, those 10 papers at a minimum for the literature review, so then you can get working on your abstraction table that is due next week. If you have any questions, please come to office hours or send me an email. I am happy to help.